Hello and welcome to another episode of Fox Cricket's podcast, The Follow-On. My name's Courtney Walsh, a senior reporter at Fox Sports Australia. Delighted to be joined by Michael Vaughan, the former England captain and a long-time favourite of Fox Cricket, a member of the family for many years, ahead of the Ashes, which shapes as an enthralling series to come. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm great. I've been coming to Australia for a number of years and been here for many Ashes series, but I've never known a build-up like this one. I'm here a bit earlier, so I'm getting to get a feel for everything that's happening, both on an Australian sense and obviously with England arriving in Perth in the last few days from an England sense. But you always know the Ashes is around when cricket's on the front pages.
I was going to say, we talk about the front pages, and there's a front page today in Western Australia, which you may not have come across. It's Joe Root arriving, and they've rolled through his numbers. I think that they did the same thing over there for Ben Stokes. And from memory, you probably would have done a pre-Ashes, perhaps in Perth yourself, going back in '05. Certainly, I know they did in '07. So not unfamiliar territory for the English players to arrive and to cop I suppose, an earful when they land at Perth Airport.
Well, the problem with that is the modern person hasn't got a clue what a paper is. So, they may have seen it, but they don't really look at papers these days. It's all part of being an England player arriving down under. You know that you're going to cop it. You know you're going to have a headline or two. You know they're going to follow you. And I guess that's going to be the skill set of the England players over the next week or so, is to make sure there's no controversy. They can't let their guards slip off the field. They've got to make sure that they practice hard, they prepare well for the 21st of November, and they can shut up quite a few editors by just playing good cricket and winning. That's the only thing you can concentrate on as an England player down here. He's playing well, doing well, getting hundreds, getting a few wickets, taking a few catches. If you do that, you end up winning a few games, and the headlines will soon change.
Just in terms of this podcast, slightly unorthodox, we're going to talk about the Ashes. We'll touch on a couple of questions about your own series in 2005, which is considered one of the great ones. A couple of great moments from Ashes history with your old mate Shane Warne and a couple of old opponents, Steve Waugh. I think your time in the commentary box. You've seen a lot in terms of this great rivalry between Australia and England over your career, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some moments there. I mean, I was there for Scotty Boland 6 for 7 at the G with Howie saying, build him a statue. I was at Silly Point for Steve Waugh when he got 100 off the last ball of that second day in 2003. Shane Warne, I was in the country, but I wasn't in Melbourne when he got his 700 against Andrew Strauss. I was at Headingley in 2019 when Ben Stokes played one of the greatest innings of all time, getting England over the line. I was at Lord's for the Johnny Bairstow incident. I've seen some special moments in Ashes history, and I'm pretty sure over the next 7 or 8 weeks we're going to have a few more.
Well, might rattle through a couple of those ones. You were standing at point when Steve Waugh makes that last ball century. I believe the spin bowler introduced himself now as the bowler who bowled the ball that Steve Waugh made his last ball century from, one of your teammates whose name's just escaped me for a second there.
Richard Dawson.
Richard Dawson, that's right. Sorry, Matt Kuhneman was telling me that when he arrived for county cricket, Richard Dawson introduced himself that way to him. What was the atmosphere like at their CG that day? And as a rival, as an opponent, are you looking at that anticipation? You doing all you can to stop him from getting to that milestone?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm pretty sure Gilly was at the other end just knocking singles to try and get Steve Waugh on strike. It was an amazing atmosphere. We were 4-0 down in this series. We'd got an half-decent number on the board, and then Steve Waugh came out to bat on day 2. He wasn't in great nick. He'd not had a series like he had in previous Ashes series, and suddenly started to play a few shots, and the atmosphere was all there for him to get the 3 figures. We tried everything to try and, I guess, delay that and try and take it into day 3. But it was a special moment. No idea what I was doing at Silly Point, to be honest. But Richard Dawson bowled him a nice little ball outside off, and he crashed it past my left shin. And I guess the rest is history. But he was out pretty cheaply the next day, and we actually won that game. We didn't get whitewashed. We managed to lose 4-1 and win that Test match. But it was a special moment to be out there witnessing the atmosphere at the SCG.
Uh, we talk about Shane Warne 700. You said you were in the country. What were you doing, and did you keep an eye on it? Was it the type of, I suppose, moment that I suppose world cricket would have stood and watched and applauded?
Yeah, I mean, and it was always going to be the case at the MCG that he was going to get that historic number. Well, I was injured, so I was preparing to get fit, and I played in the one day series after the Ashes in 06-07. But yeah, Warner used to write his own scripts and to deliver it on that given day at the MCG in front of near on 100,000 people. Great sports people, as I said, they write their own scripts and they deliver when the fans expect, when the media expects, and when the individual expects, and that's exactly what Warney did on that occasion.
Ben Stokes, you touched on him, and this is more broadly for this series as well. But that 2019 effort, and again the effort at Lords, where they didn't quite get over the line in 2023, but it was still one amazing innings from him in the tests that they were beaten in there. That moment in 2019, but also what does he mean for English cricket, and what does he mean for this summer ahead?
Oh, he's everything for this England team. You know, I've said it regularly over the last year or so. With Ben Stokes, they can beat absolutely anybody in any conditions. Without Ben Stokes, and without Ben Stokes as the all-rounder who can't bowl, they can lose to anybody. You know, he's that important. He is the real cog in the wheel that needs to operate. First and foremost, he has to get fit. He has to be able to bowl. He has to be able to bat. He obviously has to be able to move in the field. And if he can, and he can stay fit for 5 Test matches, he'll give Australia a run for the money. He's just got that mentality. He's got that drive. He's got that, like Ian Botham, like Shane Warne. These legendary players that have played the game. He has that real will to win, and he'll drive the team forward. If his bowling isn't able to deliver like he did against India for the few Test matches that he bowled, he was England's best seamer by a country mile. If he can get fit to bowl in 5 Test matches, he will give Australia a real run for his money. He's just got this amazing ability to crack open a game, whether it's with the bat in hand, with the ball in hand. He's as calm a batter that I've ever seen under pressure. When the real moment's on, Ben Stokes generally delivers with the bat. And in recent times against India with the ball, he was the person, the player that he turned to try and crack open the game, and he did it on a regular basis. So it's very important that he stays fit.
I was speaking to one of your former teammates, Jerome Jones, recently, and he said to him from afar, it looked like he was the Ben Stokes is your version of an Andrew Flintoff, a guy who would just give his all and do all he could, and then wander into the change rooms afterwards and slap in the chair. But you knew that he just delivered and left everything out there on the field. Do you see that with Stokes?
Yeah, you've got to remember he's captain. You know, Freddie captain here in 6-7. Wasn't easy against that legendary Australian side, but Ben's been captain in the Test team now for a while, and he's a remarkable leader, a really good tactician. We don't really mention how clever he is with his tactics, but he's a real good tactician. I'm not saying he's everything to this England team, but I wouldn't want to try and take Australia on in their own backyard without a Ben Stokes that can play all the facets in the game. So England have to manage him, but I guess it's not England who have to manage it. He has to manage himself. He's got to really look after that body. We've seen him bowl 10 over spells, 12 over spells in the series in New Zealand in the summer against India, and he couldn't finish the series. So it's very, very important that he manages that body, because he can't be bowling the mammoth spells in the heat of Australia. He's got to manage himself, because he's the only person that can manage himself.
You talked about, we discussed Joe Root arriving in the country overnight. I think one of the things that people are looking forward to the most is watching Smith and Root going against each other again. You know, 2 champion number 4s. We've had a couple of other great number 4s in recent years in Williamson and obviously Coley. But these two, what defines them as greats of, I suppose, of all time? What's made them 2 of the most special batters in the world?
Well, they're just so consistent, and they deliver in all conditions. That's why they're great players. They can play the pace, they can play the spin, they can play at home, they can play away. I know Joe's not got 100 here, but I'll be staggered if he doesn't get 100 in 5 matches in Australia. He's playing with such a calmness, and he had a little bit of a moment where he played a little bit much like the Bazballers. He had a little bit of a stumble, but it wasn't a massive stumble. He was still averaging plenty, but I'm delighted to see him just playing the Joe Root way. And if he can just play his way and he can be that glue of consistency at number 4, the likes of Ben Duckett at the top, Zach Crawley, Harry Brook at 5, James Smith at 7, Ben Stokes at 6, they can just play their natural aggressive way. But I wouldn't want to see them try and play that way if Joe Root's out early. I think Joe's going to have to be the glue and the kind of rock for England, as is Steve Smith. Steve Smith, we've seen him in many Ashes series that if he gets an early score, he'll have a big series. So it's very important that England find a method and a way to try and keep Steve Smith quiet. He's come to Australia, got 100 for New South Wales, his first time of asking at the Gabba. And from what I've seen, he looks like he's really geared up to this Ashes series. He's clearly going to captain at the start. His record as a captain is exceptional. He hasn't lost yet when he's coming as an interim for Pat Cummins, and he'll want that record to carry on.
Similarly, in terms of, I suppose, head-to-head battles, Adam Gilchrist, one he said he's looking forward to the most is the 2 keepers. He is a keeper, of course. He was a fantastic batsman. But Carey and Smith, we haven't seen Smith down here. What does Smith bring to the equation, and what can Aussie audiences look for?
Oh, he's a fine player. He's kind of taken to international cricket so easily with some incredible innings. His glove work is very efficient. You don't generally notice him, which is a good sign for a keeper. He doesn't make too many mistakes, or he hasn't to date. With the bat in hand, he's very destructive. He can be very dangerous. I mean, in recent times, at the back end of the Indian series, he looked a bit jaded and tired and made a few mistakes with the bat in hand. He's not quite got the runs in New Zealand in the white ball game, and he's been getting out quite cheaply. But all these England players know that this is their moment. And Jamie Smith will be back for the next tour, I have no doubt. But for this team that have been developed now for 3 or 4 years, playing this way, being expansive, flamboyant, great to watch, they're yet to win a 5-match series. And England haven't won a 5-match series since 2017. And they may have to change their method, and they may have to just go down in the gears slightly in Australia, because I can't see how you beat an Australian side by just playing one way, which is ultra aggressive all the time. So I have seen in recent times a team that have been able to just do it slightly differently, but they're going to have to be very, very smart over here in Australia. If they think they're going to attack Josh Hazel with that new Kookaburra ball on a regular basis, I think they'll be 3 and 4 wickets down quite quickly on a regular basis. So I'm really intrigued to see whether they can go up and down in the gears if they can, and they can be clever and smart at the right times. I think they're going to give Australia a run for the money.
There were some comments from Mitch Stark overnight. He took 5 wickets or 4 wickets for New South Wales against Victoria in a Shield game featuring a lot of the Australian players. And the point was made to him: do we want 5-day tests where the pitches are flat? And Cricket Australia makes a lot of money. And he says his response was, we want the pitches we've had the last couple of years with, I suppose, the green mamba, a bit of venom in them. Which way do you think they'll go? Which way do you think Cricket Australia will go, given we know that there's 10 to 20,000 English fans, the Barmy Army, making the trek down? It's a long way to come. A lot of beers to be drunk, a lot of I suppose merchandise to be sold if you get 5 days at each test.
Well, I mean, I think what we've seen in recent times in Australia, the pitches have done plenty. So it's not been easy for the batters. If you get those kind of pitches, I guess you look at Australia's experience with the ball in hand here, that could be the difference. But I'm always intrigued with the modern player, because they all speak and tell me that they want 5-day test match cricket, but they want 3-day, 4-day wickets. So, they've got to decide. If you want a 5-day match, well, you're going to have to play on pitches that are a little bit better and a little bit harder for bowling. If you want the pitches to offer plenty for the bowlers and for the ball to do all sorts, well, we don't need 5 days, because it's not going to last 5 days. It's going to cost the game too much money. So you just want a fair balance. You want a balance where it offers a little bit for the seamers, and then it becomes a good pitch for batting, and then spin might come into the equation. You got the one facet from both sides which stands out a mile to me, is that Australia have a world-class spinner. England have a very young spinner in Shoaib Bashir, who's just starting out. But there's some glaring stats, that you look at across the two teams. And, England have got one player in Australian conditions with 100, and that's Ben Stokes, and that was 8 years ago. Australia, whoever they play with at Perth, will have around 50-odd hundreds. Steve Smith alone has 2,600s here in Australia. So You got 50 hundreds or around that number against one. And then the attack of Australia, Nathan Lyon plays in Australia, and I guess he will do in Perth. He's got 268 wickets alone here in Australia. And the attack will have around 700 wickets in Australian conditions. And if England play Mark Wood, Ben Stokes, and Joe Root, which I'm pretty sure they will if they're all fit, they're the only three bowlers in the England team that have got wickets here in Australia, and they've got 43. So you've got 50-odd hundreds versus one, and you've got over 700 wickets versus 43, of which 7 have come from the off-spin of Joe Root. There is a huge gulf in experience in these conditions. England will hope that best when fresh. They'll hope that this energised team can surprise Australia, and in a few weeks' time we'll be saying, you know, when you come to Australia, you actually don't need that much experience. I have a little bit of a worry that all that experience of Australia might be just too powerful for this England side.
I saw something pretty fascinating. Well, I thought it was really interesting. It's part of, I suppose, one of the programs you do back in the UK. I think it was BBC, where you have audience engagement, and you were talking about this series coming up, and one of the questions was with an Australian fan in the stands, and it was about Bazball and why Aussies get so wound up by Bazball. Why is it, do you think, that it sort of riles us? Why do you think it, or do you think it riles us? And that sort of, I suppose, coverage of it, the discussion of it, the bar chat about it. How have you viewed that debate? Does it give you a laugh? Do you take some amusement that Australia seem to be bugged by it?
Yeah, I mean, that was on Stick to Cricket, the Ashes
Stick
debate.
to Cricket, yes.
Yeah, on the new podcast YouTube show that we're doing in the UK, which is actually coming to Australia, which will be on Fox and Co, which will be great fun. I don't know if it winds Australia up. I think Australia, like most cricket fans around the world, kind of look at who's winning. You know, who's lifting the World Test Championship final? Well, South Africa won it last year because they beat Australia in the final. And the previous one, Australia won it. You know, in the previous Ashes, it was 2-2. And in the series against India, it was 2-2. In the 2019 series, it was 2-2. And the last time England were in Australia, it was 4-0. So I think most cricket fans around the world, they actually like watching England play because they play expansively, but they're yet to win a big series. And that's the big stepping stone now for Ben Stokes and Baz McCullum. They have to win. They have to have that urn in their hands on January the 8th. And the way to do that is you can't just Bazball your way to winning an Ashes series in Australia. And that's why I say they're going to have to be smart. They're going to have to go up and down in the gears. I do believe they've got the skill sets and the mindset to do that. It's just whether when the pressure gets really hot, and it will, that first few days in Perth is going to be crucial. You know, you've got an Australian side that looks to me, if you go back 12 months ago when they played India in Perth, they weren't quite prepared. They were a little bit undercut going into that first test. They got beat. Andrew McDonald and his staff, they look to me from the outside that they're saying, no, that's not going to happen again. I know Pat Cummins isn't going to play, but all the players are playing state cricket. I know Usman Khawaja's missing out this week, but he's played 3 rounds already. Every single Australia player will be game ready by November the 21st. England have been in New Zealand for a white ball series, not done great. No problem with having a few days off. They played a bit of golf. They'd arrived in Perth. They're going to play a 3-day warm-up game amongst themselves that we all know is never as intense as a proper first-class fixture on a pitch that's not going to bounce a great deal at Lilac Hill. Then a few days later, play at the Perth Stadium. They have to play well because, you know, if they don't play well and they look undercooked and they don't look prepared properly for that first game, they're going to get a huge amount of criticism. But what I admire about this England setup, they're doing it their way. They're doing it the way that they believe works for them, and they'll be judged. They'll be judged at the end of the series whether it's worked or not. And if it's worked, great. They'll all get a huge amount of credit. If it goes the other way and it doesn't work, and we've seen this movie before in Australia, there'll be a few people under a lot of pressure.
Now, as we do each summer with Fox Sports and foxsports.com.au, we have a look at all the great series. Last year's it was Australia versus India. We went through the 5 great tests. The one we've opted for this year is the 2005 Ashes series, of which you were captain, and it was a famous one and widely considered one of the greatest. Now, not necessarily one you want to talk about all the time, I understand, Michael. It's probably one you've covered a lot through the years. Might just hit you up on a couple of key moments, or a couple of your sort of thoughts 20 years on a couple of key moments. Gilly said that he knew England was coming. He felt from a white ball series leading into that Ashes going back a few months before that they were coming. But then you get to the first test at Lords, Australia get through. But he said after that, there wasn't much of a chat, and he thought, oh, this is an England team that really desperately wants this Ashes series. Can you remember that sort of build up and then at the end of that first test?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the build-up started in 2004 when we won 7 test matches at home. So we kind of got a mechanism of knowing how to win. We got over the line on a couple of tight occasions. We then went to South Africa. We won in South Africa, which was a big series win for us because we were just this developing side. We had some good bowlers, and that was the key. You know, when you got Freddie Flintoff, Steve Harmison, Matthew Hoggard, Simon Jones, Ashley Giles was doing the job for us. You could see that we had an attack that should be able to get 20 wickets, and then it was just down to trying to free up the mindset of the players with the batting hand to try and play sensibly, get in, but then don't be scared of being risky against the likes of Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath. You know, we had to find a way of scoring against them. If you just sat and just let them bowl, like we did at Lords, actually, we didn't play well enough at Lords. We were a little bit frozen on the stage. I thought we bowled great. I thought we were decent in the field, but with the batting hand, we weren't quite what we'd been. So that was the area that we had to get right for the second game. And when you've got people like Kevin Peterson, they can really challenge any bowler. And when you've got likes of Trescothick and Strauss at the top of the order that are just rock solid human beings, freeing them up to be risky. And if you want to play dangerous cricket, we could, but it wasn't just dangerous all the time. And I think the first day at Edgbaston really won us that Ashes series because we lost the toss and we were asked to bat, but it was the way that we batted and the intent that we batted with to get 400 in, I think, 79 overs, which I guess is very similar to the Bazballers. From then on in, we felt we had a way of playing and a confidence within the group to potentially put this Australian side under a huge amount of pressure. Look, we had the elements of fortune. Glenn McGrath tripped on a ball, the decision at the toss. One or two decisions went our way, particularly at Trent Bridge. I thought the Aussies got a couple of LBs that were shocking, but we'll take it. And then we had Flintoff just found his mojo. People are saying that this series it's got a similar kind of look to what that was back then with this team and the way that they played. And the one thing is we just have players that found form. And that's what England have to do here. They'll have to have all their players finding form. They'll have to have their senior pros being consistent. And 2 or 3 players can't win you an Ashes series. And if you look at 05, every single player from 1 to 11, and even Paul Collingwood that came in for the last Test match, he played a crucial innings on that last day, and everyone at certain times contributed. And to win against good teams, that's what has to happen, and that's what will have to happen here in Australia. Every single player at certain times, at critical moments, will have to play their part.
It was said to me, Old Trafford, you look across and see the Australians celebrating the draw. Ricky Ponting had batted magnificently to hold on, and a couple of thrilling, I suppose, conclusions in that match. You got the better at Birmingham with the Kasperwich dismissal. The Aussies hold on for that draw for 1-1. When you saw them celebrating, did you think this is an unusual thing that we're right in this? And I guess the other one was, and Brett Lee talked about this, the Gary Pratt moment where he executes a brilliant run out. Have you spoken to Ricky since? Was it something that he still wants to talk about now or won't talk about now?
No, at Old Trafford we played great. That was the best performance we gave, but we didn't win because of an incredible innings by Ricky Ponting. But I don't know, when you're the leader and a captain, you do things just instinctively. That's why I always say to young captains or people that are captaining, just react. Whatever the situation, you just got to have that mechanism to react. And I'd never seen Australia celebrate a draw in my life. They don't draw many, full stop. But to see them bouncing on the back of each other at Old Trafford, it just showed to me that we'd got them into a position that, I'm not sure they were scared of us, but I knew that they respected us. And celebrating a draw, I think, is the ultimate respect in a way, that great Australian side. So I just wanted the players to know at the end of the game that giving it everything, look at that, they're celebrating. On the back of Gary Pratt, actually, the moment where he ran Ricky out, probably for the only time in that series, we were in our right to have Gary out there. because Simon Jones was in hospital. He'd bowled an over or two in the second innings, and
Fabulous player.
yeah,
Simon.
he was great, Simon. Yeah, and he never played for England again. So he was off the field getting scanned in hospital. So we were allowed a 12th man at that stage on that particular occasion where, by the way, it was a shocking run. No one talks about the call from Damien Martin, but the skill of Gary Pratt and the delivery of the run out. Just again, we've mentioned special Ashes moments, and I guess in the history that's always a moment that people talk about. Fielding. I'll keep saying it about winning here in Australia. In recent times, England have struggled, and they've dropped a lot of catches. England are going to have to catch well on that cordon. Whoever they end up having in the cordon, Joe Root will be at first slip. Zach Crawley will be in and around there. Ben Duckett's in and around there, but. Generally, Australia don't drop the ball, and in recent times, England have dropped a number of chances here in Australia, and fielding is going to be a big part in the series.
I know we've got you in the midst of Macca's shoot, and really grateful for your time, Michael. Will you keep an eye on the Shield matches this week or Lilac Hill? Which one will have more interest for you?
Well, the Shield games will finish the day that the Lilac Hill game starts. Oh, the Lilac Hill game, I don't have a great deal of interest in it, to be honest, because I've seen those games before. I've been in teams and squads where you're playing amongst yourselves, and the intensity. They might say it's there. It's never there. England are running the risk of arriving in Perth for that first game. Bearing in mind Pat Cummins isn't there. It's a hugely risky tactic that they've gone for with. Zach Crawley's not played cricket, I think, since August the 23rd. That was a 100-ball game. Mark Wood hasn't played cricket for a long while because of his injury. Ben Duckett's just arrived from his wedding. He played a few innings in New Zealand. Ollie Pope's not played any cricket for a number of months. Jofra Archer's hardly played any cricket. They're running the risk that some of their players potentially could have done with a bit more of an outing. Those players that play all the formats, I can completely understand, because you're not always guaranteed to get the quality of opposition. But I think they're running a risk. Could Zach Crawley have arrived early and played a couple of great games just to get used to Australian conditions? Could Ollie Pope have done the same? Just a 3-day game amongst your pals, really. Your pals who you play against week in, week out on a pitch that's not going to bounce. Is that good enough preparation? We'll find out. But as I said, they're running the risk. And what I do enjoy in management and in leadership, teams that just go, now, this is the way we go about our business. But ultimately, by doing it that way, they run the risk for a huge amount of criticism if it doesn't go right. And that's what the England side have done.
Look, thanks so much, Michael, for your insights to the follow-on. Really looking forward to chatting to you through the summer. Should be a great one. Good luck with the Maccas today. Don't eat too much.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you.